Hello, everyone, and welcome back to College Life and Strategies. We are going to be starting our week 2 assignments. So to start off, it seems like everybody has kind of gotten the hang of where to submit your assignments and how to navigate through the class just based off of me looking through all of the week 1 assignments and things that have already been submitted. So moving on from here, you're essentially still going to be doing the same process. You'll still submit assignments either as Microsoft Word documents or you'll submit them as a text entry box. And if you watch that little video, the 4-minute video that was above the week 1 folder, if you're still not sure about how to do that, that's going to give you a good explanation for that. So going into week 2, we are actually going to start the class presentations that you will do, and that is a required portion of the College Life and Strategies classes, is that at least 7% of your grade has to come from some sort of presentation. And since we're in an online class and we're not face-to-face, we had to find a way to do a class presentation that you could still do online. So I'm going to go through the details of it so that way you know for sure what it is that you're supposed to be doing. And then after working on the class presentations, that you'll be working on this throughout the whole week in week 2, you also have 2 assignments that are due for the week that are individual. So after you get past all of the class presentations, which I will discuss in more detail in just a minute, you have a reading over student professionalism, and then you have a discussion and reflection that you will click on here, and that is one of your activities that you're going to do for the week. And then you have 2 readings to do here. You have Basics of Higher Education, and then you have Higher Education in the U.S., which should be a PowerPoint that's in here. And then there is a practice calculating your GPA assignment that is going to go along with the reading. So when you do click on this activity and you read through the instructions, it's going to direct you to go back into the PowerPoint for Higher Education in the U.S. And there's going to be a link in the PowerPoint, and it should be on slide 11 or 12 that you're going to click on, and it's actually going to take you to a GPA calculator where you're going to input the information that I give you in the assignment. And then you're going to try to come up with the correct answer, which if you basically do not get the correct answer, you will not earn points for the assignment. And there is a bonus points opportunity within that as well. I'll go into more detail about that in a minute, but basically these are your 2 activities that you're going to be doing individually this week. But then otherwise, everything else that you're going to be doing for week 2 is going to be working on your class presentations. So first things first. You have some reading to do here. And then this activity introductions reading is the nitty-gritty details about what exactly it is that you are doing for this presentation. So after you read through this, you are going to come down here and click through the 4 groups, and you're going to find your name wherever I assigned you. So I basically randomly assigned everyone into a group, and all the groups have 5 to 6 members roughly right now. So you need to click through group 1, 2, 3, and 4 until you basically come across your name so you know what group you're going to be in for this week. You do not need to check in any of the other group folders. Once you find the group folder that you've been assigned to, that is the only group folder that you're going to be going into for this week. And then all of your communication, any kind of discussions about anything that you're planning to do for your group needs to remain in your discussion folder where I can monitor it, because that is how I'm going to be able to determine that people are actively participating in the presentation. So that way you earn a grade, because not only do you have to submit your presentation at the end of the week, but I also need to be able to see that you are an active participant, that you are in discussions throughout the week with your group, that you didn't just show up on the last day trying to get some points. Because if that's what happens, you probably will not earn points for the assignment at all. If you just show up at the last minute and your group has pretty much done everything and there's not really anything left for you to do, you don't get to earn points just because you stop in and say hi. You have to be an active participant in the presentation. So I'm going to go here to the activity introductions. It's lengthy, so please be sure that you read through it in detail, because I'm basically outlining everything that you need to know for you to be able to complete this project in full. So make sure you read through all of this and don't skip around. I'm sorry it's lengthy, but I wanted to make sure that everybody had a very detailed explanation. So basically starting out, it says basically how you're all going to be placed in groups of multiple students, whether it be 3 or more, depending on the class size. And so for our class size, I was able to put 5 to 6 students in each group. And then basically you have your allotted class time that you have to work on this project is just for week 2. So week 2 starts on October 19th. You have to submit your presentation by the 25th. So you have only week 2 to get this done. You have to get into communication with all of your classmates that are in your group. You have to start discussions. You have to start deciding how you want to lay things out. You have to start deciding on what day you want to record on. And then just basically make sure that you are completing all of the requirements so that way you can earn the most amount of points, because there are several different ways that points could potentially be deducted. So hang in there with me. We're going to kind of go through it. So the idea of this project is normally when you're just doing an introductory presentation, if we were in a face-to-face class, that means you and your group members would stand up in front of the class and you would basically introduce the other people that are in your group. So we're doing essentially the same thing in the online class, but what you all are doing is each one of you is introducing one of your other classmates that's in your group. Everybody has to be introduced. Everyone has to participate and speak. So that means, one group member is going to introduce the next one. That group member is going to then introduce one of the other group members, and so forth. Everybody has to speak. This is not the kind of presentation where you have one person that maybe does all the tech savvy stuff, but then somebody else does all the talking. That's not how it's going to work. Everybody has to speak. Everybody has to introduce one of the other members of your group, and there is an amount of time that you need to try to speak for. So basically here, I need to find the section that is showing what it is that you are. So under number 2 right here, this is the kind of information when you get into your discussion folder for your group. This is the kind of information that you need to kind of give to your group members. So as you guys are basically trying to build what it is you're going to say about each other, you can kind of start with this information to get things going. But you do need to understand that you need to give people quite a bit of information about yourself, so that way when they're introducing you, they have enough things to speak about so that they can make the time that each of you has to make when you're doing the introductions of each other. So basically it's saying, obviously your names, age, if you're comfortable with that, any information about your family that's interesting or anything like that, your motivations for being in college, what kind of interests you have, your goals, maybe some problems that each of you has experienced or anticipate in experiencing if you're, in trying to achieve your goals. And anything else like that you want to add to it. There could be some other information that you would not mind, other people in the class knowing about you. So just make sure that you're giving plenty of information so the person in your group who's introducing you is able to speak for a long enough period of time. So that's basically what you're going to get started doing, is introducing yourself in your group discussion folder, and then maybe put a post out there with like all of this kind of information to get discussions going. And then usually by Wednesday night is when I tell people you need to try to have a plan in your group about what day you may be able to do your recording together. So that way you can get it done before Sunday. But you need to try to wait until about Wednesday night to really move on with the project, because sometimes there's going to be a straggling person that maybe doesn't check in until Tuesday, maybe even by Wednesday morning. And usually by that time, by Wednesday is when I tell groups, if somebody still hasn't checked into your group and they haven't said anything, then just go ahead and move on. So just be aware of that. Next, basically what you're going to do is when you guys do decide on a day that you're going to try to get together and you're going to try to record your presentation, please understand it's a presentation that's kind of like a conference call where you do like a Zoom call. If anybody's ever done Zoom before, or maybe Microsoft Teams, it's where you all are basically going to get onto a video conference call together, and it has to be able to be recorded, and Zoom will let you record a video conference call. So that's what most of my students so far have been using, has been Zoom. And basically you all have to agree to meet at a certain time on a certain day before the project's due. And you all need to be on the video together. So there is a way, for example, on Zoom, where basically every single person's face can be visible on the screen. And that's what you're trying to shoot for, where like it would be like if you were standing in front of the class and everybody would be able to see all of you at the same time. So you're trying to find a way where you can basically put all the different tiles that are on there where you'd be able to see everybody's face during the entire presentation. And that's also kind of valuable too, because it shows me which students can actually be professional. They can listen while the other person is presenting and they're not off doing something else, or maybe not paying attention to what's going on with the actual presentation when it's happening. So you need to try to make it to where I can see all of your faces all at the same time. So whichever one of your group members feels like you are the most tech savvy person who will be able to get a Zoom conference call going, and you can send the link to all your group members so everybody can check in on time, and then you all are on the conference call together, then you would basically start your presentation where you would ideally want to introduce whoever's going to start, would ideally want to introduce the group. They would want to basically, that first person would get started on the other group member that they're going to be introducing. And your goal is to try to speak for a full 2 minutes. If it's a little bit more than 2 minutes, that's fine, but you want to try to speak for 2 minutes. So that's why I said 2 minutes doesn't seem like long, but when you're doing a presentation, it can feel like a very long time. So you need to try to make sure that you are all each giving the other members of your group plenty of information. So that way they have enough notes and things that they have taken down that they would be able to introduce another one of the group members, and they would have enough to talk about that they could talk for a full 2 minutes. And every single person in the group needs to introduce one of the other group members, and each one of you needs to speak for at least 2 minutes. I had some confusion last semester about that, where I had some students that thought that the entire presentation only had to be 2 minutes long, and that is not true. Every single person needs to speak for at least 2 minutes. So ideally, let's say you have 5 people in your group, your presentation would roughly need to be about 10 minutes long if all of you were speaking for 2 minutes each. So maybe that makes more sense to some people if I'm not explaining it perfectly, but that's kind of what you're shooting for. So basically, use Zoom or Microsoft Teams, whatever somebody in your group is comfortable using, where it is a video conference call where you can record it. I don't care what program you use. It just needs to be something that you can record it. So when you submit your presentation, you're able to submit a link for your presentation. So I will be able to view it, and then other people in the class will be able to view it, because next week, in week 3, we're going to kind of do a follow-up assignment that has to do with your group presentations, where other people in the class are going to be able to view your presentation. So you do need to be able to post a link when you're submitting it, so that way I and other people can see your presentation. Okay, so moving on from there, if you do have time to record a rough draft so you can kind of run through the whole thing and work out any kinks, please do that, because that might be helpful to make the actual final recording run a little more smoothly. But if you don't have time to do that, it's up to you. But I just always recommend that to people, so that way they can kind of run through the presentation one time to see how it went. They can watch the recording and see what kind of things maybe they want to brush up on. And then they can record it again as a final presentation where, they can smooth out any of those kinks if they want it to kind of look more professional. And then basically, when you have completed the recording, so when you've gone through and every single person in the group has introduced one of the other group members, everyone needs to be introduced. So you basically just need to figure out who's introducing who. That way, every single person in the group is getting introduced by every person in the group. Hopefully that makes sense. And then once you've completed your recording, and you'll see, like with Zoom, for example, it'll pop up that link that will have the recording on it. And that's what you're going to be submitting. So please understand that only one of your group members needs to submit the link. Not every single one needs to submit the link in the assignment folder that I have set up for this. Basically, what you want to do is just make sure that whoever is submitting the link for the group, they need to either in the comment section of the assignment where you're submitting it, in the comment section, you can just put the names of all the people who actively participated in the recording. That's helpful to me, because then I can go in and I can grade for everyone, and I can post all the grades on there. And then basically, if you do have any group members that never did check in and were never active, you can also put that in the comment section if there was someone that never checked in, because that's also helpful to me, because then I can go back and verify real quickly that they never did check into your discussion folder. And that way, essentially they're not going to earn any points for the project. So just know that. What you'll want to do as well, you're going to have an assignment folder open where someone in the group needs to post the link and put everybody's name on there, so I know who all was in the group and active. But then somebody also needs to, in your discussion folder for your group, at the very end, somebody needs to also submit the link for the project there. And that's going to be useful for the week 3 follow-up assignment that we're going to be doing. So what I put right here was whoever submits the video link in your group discussion folder, just title it with like a final submission. So that way anybody who's looking for your video, they can scroll right down to it and they'll be able to find it really quickly. So you have to essentially upload your link to 2 places, the assignment folder and then in your group discussion folder at the very end, and title it final submission. Okay. And let's see, and I just put on here some little tips. Word of advice is to log in very early in week 2 and start chatting with your group members, start giving that information that the assignment is asking for, and just kind of, maybe you guys can throw out some times where, you know, maybe your work schedule where you have time off that it would be easy for you to be able to meet to do the recording, and you can start throwing out some of that information in the group discussion folder to make it easy for people to kind of try to pinpoint a time that might be good for your recording. So you can give information like that as well. And then I also put on here that if you do have someone that by Wednesday has not checked in at all, I can try sending them an email and see if I can get them to check into the group. So just email me as soon as possible, like let's say on Wednesday morning, if there's still someone in the group that hasn't checked in, and I can try to email them and see if I can get them to check into the group. So that way you have some additional help. And then right here is where I put examples of how you might potentially have some points deducted. And let me be frank, not everyone in the group is necessarily going to get the same exact grade, because if I have 3 of the group members that did speak for 2 minutes, they spoke professionally, they were serious about the project, they did a really good job, they may get full points for the project. And then if I have somebody else in the group that only spoke for 1 minute, they're probably going to get a few points taken off. So not every single person in the group is necessarily going to get the same exact grade. So I also wanted you to be aware of that, because I do time you all. Whenever I'm grading these projects, I time every single person as I'm going through the presentation to see how long every single person presented for. And I'm looking for things in a professional environment. I had last semester somebody who had her face basically on the camera, but she had it dialed back so far that I could see the giant pile of laundry that was behind her. Her bed was unmade. It was just distracting. It was kind of a mess, and that's not very professional. If you were going to do a video presentation like this, and let's say you were going to speak to your employer and you were going to have a meeting, you probably wouldn't want that kind of thing in the background that people can see. And it's good, just like how I have it here, just have your face on the video where there's not really anything except for my fan that's right there, but there's not unprofessional things laying around, behind me that people can see. Just try to take this and make it as professional as possible. You don't necessarily have to dress up and be, in perfect garb, but you can always make the camera just be focused on your face. And then that way there's not other distracting things around. Try to be in a quiet room so there's not kids running around or dogs barking or things like that, because it gets really distracting when people are trying to watch your video and they have all this background noise that's going on. And then I just have a couple of other tips about, how to make it professional and whatnot. So you probably get the point. So I'm not going to go too much more into that. But that's essentially what your project is, what your class presentation is doing these introductions of each one of the members that is in your assigned group. So now I'm going to go back to our folder for week 2 and wait for it all to pull up here. So just 1 second. It usually takes a second. So that's the explanation there. Then you'll check into your group folder once you figure out which one you've been assigned to, and that's where you're going to do all your communication for the week. If you have any questions about the presentation, just email me and I can clarify. If there's something that doesn't seem clear to someone, just email me and I will try to clarify for you. And then here is the assignment folder for you to put your link for your presentation when you've recorded it and you're done with it. You will put the link here, and only one person needs to submit it for the group. Just make sure whoever submits it puts the names of all the people that were actively participating when they do that. And so for those of you that did not submit it, somebody else in your group submitted it for you. It's going to show on your end that it looks like a missing assignment, but don't worry about that, because once I grade it, I'm still going to plug your grade in. As long as one person in your group submits the link for the presentation on time, don't worry about it. You're going to get your grade. It's just going to show as missing because you yourself did not submit something, even though somebody in your group did for the group. So just don't worry about that. And then basically, like I said, move on to your student professionalism assignment after that. You can do this at any point throughout the week and turn it in if you want to get it over with really quick so you can focus on the presentation, whatever works best for you. Do these 2 readings. And so here, like I said, with this practice calculating a GPA, you're going to go into this folder where there's the PowerPoint. You're going to want to go to slide 11 or 12 to find the link for the GPA calculator. It's going to open a new window on your computer and it's going to go to a GPA calculator. And when I click on this, you'll basically see what it should look like, so you'll know for sure. Click on it again. Maybe it'll actually start working. There we go. Okay. So it says right here, go to the higher education in US reading that is right before this assignment folder, open it up, and then you're going to want to go to slide 11 or 12. And then you will see that there's a link for the online GPA calculator. So when you click the link, it's going to open a page that looks just like this. So I put that there just so you know for sure that you're in the right thing. And what it's taking you to is basically like a chart where you're going to be able to enter information to try to figure out what GPA it is that I'm asking you for. So what you need to do here, once you've opened this up in another window on your computer and you see this chart, this is the information that you're wanting to input into these boxes here whenever you're doing that. So basically what I'm giving you the information for is what the class name is, which is what you would put. So like your course number 1, that would be the first course that you're in. It's college algebra. So you type that in here. This is the grade that you got for college algebra. And this is how many credit hours you earned for taking this class. And you're going to do the same thing all the way down with these other classes, entering all the information exactly as I have it. And when you click on submit, it's going to tell you what your GPA was for the first semester. And that's the first answer that you need to give me. If you want to do the bonus points, you will see that there will be a tab that you can click on that lets you add another semester. So you need to click on the tab that says add another semester. And then you basically will then add in information for another semester. But what this scenario is giving you is you are trying to find out that, okay, let's say in this semester 1, I didn't get the GPA that I wanted. So what happens if next semester I take these classes and I make an A in every single one of my classes? What is my overall GPA going to end up being after I take these classes if I make an A in that? Because you're kind of predicting or trying to find out what you could potentially raise your GPA to if you made an A in all of your classes in the next semester. So that's what you're entering for semester 2. And then you should get information about overall GPA. And that would be the second answer that you're going to be giving me. If you get both of them right, you essentially get the points for the actual assignment. But if you get them both right, you also get the bonus points for getting this bonus points part right. Please pay attention to the reading. I'm not asking you for the GPA for just the semester. I'm asking for the overall GPA for all of your semesters if you've entered all of this information correctly and exactly as I have it here. So it tells you right there what points you will earn for getting the semester 1 correct. And then if you get the overall GPA for semester 2 correct, you get 5 bonus points. And it is a text entry box. You're not going to be able to do this as a Microsoft Word document. You essentially open the text entry box, you enter your answer for the 2 semesters that you get when you're using the online GPA calculator, and then you submit it. And that's it. So just please read through that carefully, make sure you're understanding what it is I'm asking for, and then you should be fine there. And that is essentially it for this week. I know that there's probably going to be some people that have a little bit of confusion about the group project. There usually always is because it is a lot of information, but just email me if you're not sure about something. And then just be sure that by the 25th, by Sunday, you also do these 2 individual assignments here and the readings that go with them. So that way you know how to do all of those. And that is it for week 2. So we're moving right along. It's going to be a really quick semester. So just hang in there. Just always email me if you have questions, and I will see you all next week for week 3.